so I did 3 versions of the NBA Unicorn. The ones we had or haven't seen before but might be replicable, which is the traditional unicorn. The one we'll probably never see again, which is the Tweener Unicorn. Because you never know. Like Jordan is a tweener. I'm pretty sure we won't see Jordan again. But Jordan was the evolution of David Thompson. And after Jordan, Vince and Kobe for a few minutes there felt like they were going to be the evolutionary Jordan, and then they weren't. So it makes me think that we might see that again at some point. And then the final one is the true unicorn, which, will just never happen again. So on the traditional unicorn list, the 2 I had the toughest with were Shaq and Wilt Chamberlain. Because I do feel like they're related in some way. Like Shaq was his generation's version of Wilt, just this unstoppable dude. But Wilt was a lot more graceful than Shaq was.
Sure.
Shaq was like referees couldn't even figure out how to officiate him. Wilt, same thing, but also had like these weird turnarounds and finger rolls and things like that. You could talk me into those guys being true unicorns. The true unicorns, here's the list. Kareem, Earl the Pearl, Pistol Pete, Dr. J, Adrian Dantley, Gervin, Larry Legend, Magic. Mikhail is now off the list because Anthony Davis showed up. Hakeem, Barkley, Manute Bol, Dennis Rodman, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. Is there anyone missing on that list for you?
I don't think so. The one thing I was surprised by, and I actually did this, it's sitting next to me right now, was Manute Bol. I was surprised for you to have included him. You directed us to go to page 340 of the Book of Basketball. I did that, and then I went on YouTube and watched some clips. He was not only a remarkable basketball player and deserving of that unicorn status, but what a remarkable human being.
I know.
And I'm glad I had time to spend with Manute Bol today.
I've never in my life, you had those old seats in the Boston Garden, which you've sat in, that my dad had. The players would walk by us to come in and out of the game. And when Manute walked by, it was to watch the people's faces. It was just unbelievable that we belong to the same human species as him. I've never seen a human being like that. He's 7'7". It was unbelievable.
How about this? You and I went to the Boston Garden and sat in those seats and watched Golden State beat the Celtics with Tim Hardaway as a rookie.
Oh.
And Manute, I think Manute made 3 threes that game.
And not only that, but then we went out and you had to listen to me complain about how we drafted Michael Smith over Tim Hardaway for like the next 3.5 hours. I was devastated. Yeah, we took Michael Smith right in front of him. Oh, yeah. It was horrible.
That was right.
That's exactly what happened. Like 27 years ago. I still haven't gotten over that. So
pretty good.
Just to go through these guys, because, the young kids, the kids out there, they think basketball started with like Shaq. Kareem, on top of all the other reasons, like his durability compared to everybody else in the league is just impossible. But I've never seen anything like the skyhook. Nobody's ever even tried to replicate it.
Not even close.
And I feel like we're never going to see it again. I don't. Whatever he did to figure out how to do it and all the reps he put into it, nobody's doing that in AAU and 9th grade basketball in high school. Who the fuck's going to try to do a skyhook for 3 hours a day for 7 years? Not happening.
There's nothing to even compare it to, right?
No. Nothing. It's the most unstoppable shot. If you're down 1 with 12 seconds left, at any point in your life as an NBA fan, you could pick any player to take the shot and get you a good basket. You'd pick the Kareem. You'd run a play for the Kareem skyhook. It's the most reliable 2 points we have. Earl the Pearl, I would encourage people to go on YouTube and watch him because just the herky-jerkiness has not been...
Dervish.
It's just, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know how he learned how to do it. The spin moves and the stop and starts. Black Magic.
He's the OG of the start and stop.
Yeah. He earned the nicknames Black Jesus and Black Magic. He would go into playgrounds and they would call him Black Jesus, other black people. Think about that. How good do you have to be to earn the nickname Black Jesus? So Pistol Pete, who's gotten a lot of love. I think Pistol Pete's gotten, multiple books and documentaries, all that stuff.
He's been properly recognized.
Dr. J, who kind of got lost in the shuffle a tiny bit, but you and I were both old enough to see him in person, and seeing him on the 20 feet away from the hoop on the left, swooping in with that weird swoop thing he used to do, and all of a sudden he was at the basket. I wonder if Giannis can learn how to do that.
I believe so.
Giannis is 5 inches taller than Doc and has bigger hands. They should force him to watch Doc videotapes, because if he learns that swoop move, it's unstoppable. Adrian Dantley, which is a weird one to put on here, but I just don't feel like, where are we going to see a 6'3" low post specialist again? Tate, think about that.
It's crazy.
He's the same size as Steph Curry, and he's posting up Kevin McHale and scoring on him.
Makes no sense.
He had games. Bob Ryan once called it a Dantley, where he would have back in the old days when the box score was just like field goals made, free throws made, and points. That was the box score. And Dantley would have these games where it would be like 4, 25, 33. He made 25 free throws.
Wasn't he the scoring champ a couple times?
Yeah, he was 30 a night for 6 straight years. And so is George Gervin, who's also on this list. Gervin, 6'8", 102 pounds. And the finger roll, I actually think has not got enough credit. And the finger roll montages on YouTube are not good enough yet. He would do finger rolls from 13 feet. I've never seen anything like it.
That was my era of truly falling in love with professional basketball, because the Bullets and the Spurs,
Bobby D.
That's right.
Bobby D shut him down.
That's right.
Yeah. Larry Bird doesn't need to be talked about. Neither is Magic Johnson. We talked about McHale. Hakeem. I mentioned the backstory. I covered this in my book. In the column, I glossed over it, but in my book about just Hakeem in Nigeria playing soccer every day and trying to become a professional soccer player and having soccer player footwork, and that's all he did. And then at age 15, somebody's like, "You should try basketball. You're tall," and he just started playing basketball almost with a fresh brain, and applied all the weird soccer footwork to how he wanted to play basketball, and was also one of the greatest athletes in the history of the league and everything. And a really nasty competitor, which he never got enough credit for because he was so nice. And it all just melds into this unstoppable inside-outside monster who 1 year averaged 6.7 combined blocks and steals on top of the 24-14
David Robinson.
Oh, yeah. And he didn't ruin David Robinson's career, but he definitely altered it. So he's on there. Barkley's on there. I was so happy there's a great Barkley YouTube clip that I put in this column, because Barkley to me is the all-time original unicorn. I know I'm never seeing that again. It's never happening. I felt that way in the moment. I felt that way now. To watch a 6'4" guy get 22 rebounds in a game and dunk over people and take rebounds coast to coast, it just was not happening. And I guess if Russell Westbrook gained 55 pounds and kept all of his athleticism would be the best way to describe it.
That's pretty
fair?
good. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Super out of shape Russell Westbrook. Manute Bol we covered. Rodman. Young Rodman was something to behold. It was amazing.
Really, all Rodman. There was no Rodman that wasn't worth, the price of admission.
Well, young Rodman.
His Bulls years were spectacular.
Yeah, and that was tail end Rodman. I mean, those early Pistons years, he comes in, he's got the tight shorts, he's all legs and hips, he had no torso, and he's just hopping around. He would every time he ran, it was just like watching those births of when a horse gives birth to a pony, and the pony's just kind of scrambling around trying to stay on its feet. That he kind of ran like that, and he would just hop around and moved at warp speed, and it was the first and only guy I've ever seen who could guard Larry Bird. He actually could guard him, and he could guard Magic, and he gave MJ problems. He could guard everybody, and he was an insatiable rebounder. He was awesome on fast breaks, and I just haven't seen anybody like him since. I'm not saying he can't be. Maybe he should be on the traditional unicorn. Do you think we'd see another Rodman? I guess if you add in all the personality stuff, no.
I don't think so. I really, there isn't anybody that I can think of since that you would even sort of put in the same conversation because of that how relentless his motor was,
right?
And that defense. One thing that is curious: Kawhi didn't make any of these lists? Kawhi didn't even come up in the conversation.
Yeah, Kawhi should have made one of these lists.
Oh,
He at least should have
right.
been. Well, I don't know. We've seen variations of Kawhi before, haven't we?
I don't know. I just now was trying to think about guys that I think are great defenders for the purposes of this Rodman comparison, which I don't think we're going to get anybody near. But Kawhi is the current sort of, the modern best wing defender, not making any of these lists. I don't know who I compare Kawhi to.
Well, Pippen would be the obvious one.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Pippen with bigger hands.
Pippen was so much bigger. Pippen had like a more of natural athletic advantage.
Well, Kawhi,
over
have you seen
Kawhi?
Kawhi this year? Kawhi to me looks big this year. He looks a little LeBronish this year.
Yeah.
He's like a evolutionary mute Pippen. Would you put Spud Webb on the True Unicorn list? Are we seeing Spud Webb again?
No. Well, just because of his size. Isaiah Thomas, we just had this conversation where we went crazy for Isaiah Thomas.
But he seemed way shorter than Isaiah Thomas.
That's right. That's why.
Wouldn't you say Muggsy?
Muggsy was never that good, was the problem. I'm not telling my grandkids
That's
about
true.
Muggsy Bogues. He just wasn't. Jordan psyched him out that one time, allegedly, and he was never the same, as the story goes. The other one, I thought about Yao. I think it's possible that China genetically engineers another 7'7" Yao. And it's probably up to it right now. So that's why I didn't put it. So I didn't
You
put
him in the right place.
Yeah,
you put him on traditional.
I do feel like Neek was borderline. I could have made him a true unicorn and felt pretty good about it. I've never seen anybody go out of his way to dunk on people like Neek did. Do you ever remember anyone doing that? Where?
No, it belonged to that era.
Yeah.
Again, it's that the ferocity of Westbrook is the only thing like in a modern way that I can think about.
It was that pre East Coast West Coast rap NBA that Len Bias was the ultimate version of it, where the swagger was there, but it was all kind of internal, and you played with a certain ferocity, but there was no chest thumping yet, and no people acting out of control. Everybody was supposed to keep it in check, so it was like bristling. And Dominique to me was like that. Len Bias was the ultimate, but
I think Neek let it out a little bit.
That's what I mean. He let it out a little. It seeped out, but it was never. 10 years later, I think he's behaving a little differently. But the thing I used to love about him was he could just do the normal dunk, or he could kind of angle a little bit so he could try to dunk on somebody as he did the dunk, and he'd always try to incorporate other people in it. It's like, oh, there's Randy Breuer's over there. I'm going to bring him into this dunk. I'm going to go sideways, try to get Randy in on this one and just dunk on his head. He really loved it. He really loved the art form of it.